Transition. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another small screen Star Wars. As always, I'm Julian Mush. I'm joined by Daniel D'Souza and Rachel Wilkinson.
Hello.
And we're today going to be talking about The Mandalorian, Chapter 14, Season 2, Episode 6, The Tragedy. Okay. For those who are new to the show, we like to recap each episode of The Mandalorian. Well, basically every show that's hitting Disney Plus that's Star Wars themed, really. And probably movies too. There hasn't been any of those for a while. But that's the plan here. It's going to be full spoilers, so just be aware of that now. We're going to talk about basically everything in the Mandalorian. Anything in the Star Wars universe is up for grabs, basically, at this point. Okay. Before we get into that, let me just remind everyone to follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast, Facebook.com/Tower Babblecast, and head over to our website, towerbabble.ca, to find everything we do, including our flagship show, the Tower Babble Podcast, where we like to talk about a broader range of genre, film, and television news. I'm excited too. We haven't talked about it yet, but on our next episode, whenever we record that, we're going to talk about this big news with HBO Max going day and date with all their large movies to HBO Max at the same time they're hitting theaters. So pretty crazy stuff. We'll talk about that in our next episode, whenever that might be. I think next weekend probably. Okay. And then if you want to help keep the lights on, you can head over to patreon.com/TowerBabblecast and help support the show for as little as $5 a month. You get access to our Discord. There's a lot of fun Mandalorian discussions happening in there. As well as a bonus episode, we do a film club every single month for our Patreon subscribers. We're actually doing a bonus film club this month. Dan, what's the bonus episode we're doing?
Yeah, we're doing a Christmas-themed episode for December. So we're going to do a version of the film club that's going to be available for everybody in the month of December, and it's going to be A Christmas Story, sort of a classic 80s movie.
And poke your eye out with that thing, or put your eye out with that thing, I think it said.
So, that'll be fun.
And I think there's a put your eye out with that thing reference in this episode of The Mandalorian.
There is.
Yeah, the dark saber. Look at that.
That is funny. Okay. So you can find that again on our Patreon. Actually, you'll get that regardless if you're following us on the Tower Babble podcast feed. But if you want, you can hear our exclusive episode, which is going to be what? What's our exclusive episode? I forgot as well. So anyway, it'll be a movie for sure. Dan will look that up at some point.
It's not in the book.
Okay.
We have to listen to the last episode.
I'll go back and find out. I'll find out while we're going, and I'll let you guys know. So I guess while I'm looking that up, let's get into this. This episode is written by Jon Favreau. It's directed by Robert Rodriguez, of all people. Surprising choice. Was anyone else surprised to see Robert Rodriguez's name on this episode?
I don't know who that is.
He's a big director, but he's new to Star Wars. I think he's been vocal about his fandom of Star Wars, so he's always loved the IP. But he was the perfect choice for a very action-packed episode. Yeah, he's sort of known for movies like the Grindhouse movies, Planet Terror, and very action-heavy films like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also there's something of note here. It's like there's a Latino or Latinx director with a Latinx star in the show that doesn't happen very often, so that's kind of fun. But also, yeah, you're right. It's just like he's a big name director. There's some idea that he's maybe being groomed for to do a film. You know, to say, hey, here's your you put your foot in the toe in the water. That's what I'm looking for.
Foot in the toe.
Put your foot in the toe.
Put your toe in the water and like try out the Star Wars stuff. Then if it works, then maybe we can give you a whole movie. Maybe. Who knows?
I'll tell you what, it worked.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
I think it worked for me. Yeah.
Okay. You know what, guys? More than any episode this season, I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say because I didn't like this episode.
Huh.
Yeah, I didn't like it, and I think it might be bad. I think it might be a bad episode.
You make it sound like you don't like hearing our opinions in other episodes.
Yeah, normally it just washes over me. You know, it's like water off a duck's back. I got that saying right. Yep. Yeah. So I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say. I'm just gonna hop in here. The exclusive movie for next month's. And this is probably not the most exciting choice for like a Star Wars fan, but it's Danny Boyle's Train Spotting is going to be our film for the exclusive Patreon.
Oh, that movie's a bummer.
Well, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Sorry, but it is.
That doesn't mean it's not a good movie.
So hey, and that
True,
doesn't mean we can't have a
true.
good conversation about it.
It's very true.
So, look for that cheery film on our exclusive Patreon feed in around the end of December. It'll be probably hit around New Year's Day, give or take a day or two.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty, let's move into the actual episode itself. Before we jump into the blow-by-blow recap, overall thoughts on this episode. You guys want me to go first?
Yeah,
on
you
this
go
one?
first.
You might as well.
Okay. So I thought it was really cool having Robert Rodriguez direct this episode. I thought the action was well shot. That being said, I thought this episode felt cheap. It felt like a fan film in a lot of ways for me. And there's a couple reasons, like a couple key things that stick out to me that really drive that home, and we'll kind of highlight those when we go through it. I thought the dialogue was kind of clunky, and it was really plotty, and kind of just felt like things were happening because they were in the script and not necessarily because it felt like it made sense at the moment. So that was what bothered me. And I think overall, because of those extra things, it just made the reintroduction of Boba Fett feel less exciting or less memorable for me, and it was a little underwhelming. But I do think it does do a good job of setting up an interesting kind of two-part finale, or, I don't think it's technically a two-part finale, but 2 episodes that are going to essentially be that. So that was good, but I don't know. What did you guys think? Rachel?
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you mean, maybe about it being maybe kind of fan servicey, but at the same time, like, I didn't mind that. I liked it.
Sure.
I thought the action was really good. It was like made me laugh a bunch, and yeah, I don't know. I didn't really have any.
Wait, it made you
any
laugh
big
a bunch?
qualms. Yeah, I don't know. I laughed at a lot of the like bumbling stormtrooper stuff. And,
Sure.
like,
I guess I just don't think it's. That's interesting because I don't think it's supposed to be funny very often
Maybe
in this
not.
episode. You know,
maybe not laugh, but I'm just like, I don't know. You know how I am. I like when I like seeing
right.
stormtroopers just
It's
get
amusing.
destroyed. So yeah, it
Mhm.
amused me.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I was a lot of it excited me. Like, we got to see Slave One again. I was pumped, and like, I
Yep.
have no big qualms with it. And I mean, we can get to the few little things later on as we talk, but overall,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Okay, Dan, what about you?
Yeah, I think I would largely agree with you, Rachel. I thought it was a great way to introduce Boba Fett. He's a fan favorite character, so it's always going to feel fan servicey, especially to make him such a badass. He's known as being a badass. I don't know what better way to introduce the character.
I understand that. I didn't feel the episode was fan servicey. Just to clarify, that's not the language I used. I just it felt underwhelming for me as a reintroduction, even with the cool stuff that they showed Boba Fett do. But again, we'll get into the like specifics as we go.
Yeah. Aside from that, the action was great. I'm not sure what you mean by feeling cheap, other than like, did they use more practical sets? I guess like the mountains and such.
The way it was lit felt very like kind of backyard school.
It felt more like they may have been on location as opposed to filming the way they normally film.
Yeah, and it just like the planet doesn't feel alien or exciting in any way. It's just like it feels like any away mission on a Star Trek episode from like the 60s, you know. So like that kind of stuff just felt really kind of weird. And then I think even some of the effects, like the Slave One ship, didn't look very good. I didn't think. I like that ship. It's one of my favorite. I had a Lego set. I was thinking about this the other day. One of my favorite Lego sets of all time. It's one of the only few that I put together as the actual set and kept it together. Like as the actual thing it was designed of, instead of taking it apart and building new things with it. So I love the Slave One, but I just think it didn't look that good. So I don't know. It just, a lot of it felt very, for me, kind of just like quick and cheap to me. Fan filmy. It felt like a fan film. I could imagine in my brain seeing it as like, well, we put a couple $1,000s together as a group of Star Wars fans, and we made the story of Boba Fett's return, and we hired Tamora Morrison.
I mean, we can get into the actual episode now.
Okay.
I think the dialogue has been consistent with the entire series, and I do agree with you that it's clunky, but that's been consistent.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's new to this episode.
There's some particularly weird choices here we'll talk about as we go. Okay, so we start on the Razor Crest, and Mando and Grogu are hanging out on their way to Tython. One thing that is interesting and was made kind of a couple Star Wars fans have noted this, that Tython is in the deep core. The deep core is often referenced in Star Wars like lore as being like really hard to navigate, hard to get in and out of. Often where the Emperor hid stuff there, had secret lane like subspace lanes and all this kind of stuff, hyperspace lanes, to get in and out of it. And then for this episode, there's no fanfare around getting in and out of the deep core. So, and from not only deep core to the outer rim and back, right? And you're going past like famous worlds that people would recognize, like Chandrila and Coruscant, on your way into the deep core. I mean, that's not technically how space works, but you know what I mean. You're heading towards the center, so you're closer to those places, and there's just nothing is made of that. So I thought that was a weird choice, but I mean, just for saving time, I suppose that's fine. But there's also some weird inconsistencies on some of the language. Ming-Na Wen's character says this. Speaking of clunky line and line delivery, when she says, "That's impossible. The New Republic has jurisdiction in the Outer Rim." It's like, it sounds like she's talking about like they're in the Outer Rim. It's like, you guys aren't in the Outer Rim, and meanwhile there's like Arabesh lettering and the map that shows them they're in the deep core. It's like it's confusing. Most of that stuff people aren't gonna notice, and that's fine.
I did not pick up on that, but yeah,
it is kind of it doesn't paint a picture very well of where in the galaxy this planet is, which I think is a shame personally. I don't know if you guys care about that at all.
Well, I can understand why you would care about it being into the lore, but it doesn't really have anything to do with the episode or what's going on. So
that's true.
They don't need to touch on it within this series. If it were a movie, maybe that would be different, but they don't. There's only a 35-minute episode, right?
Well, I mean, they can make their episode as long as they want. They chose to make
and they can make their seasons as long as they want to if they want to explore these things. So,
right?
But they're trying to condense it to make it, friendly to the audience.
And and that's fine. I think if I'm generally a fan, if you're going to tell stories with intricate worlds and universes like this, it's like, do some world building, paint the picture. Where are we? So I think that's just a missed opportunity, and that's fine. So anyway, Mando and Grogu are hanging out, and Mando seems to be in really good spirits, excited about the information he got from Ahsoka. Apparently, tells Grogu that he's very special. You could probably, put very special to me. You could put the "to me" at the end there. I think that's implied.
Oh, for sure.
I think we do need to mention this as well. We don't talk about it enough, but the physical acting that the person, whoever is wearing Mando's armor, it's not always Pedro Pascal, does to communicate this stuff when it's just his voice, I think is very commendable and underrated, so much so that it just feels natural, but it's not easy. So I think that just needs to be noted. Anyway, so he's doing the little trick that they did last week with the ball. He's just basically passing it. He's playing fetch basically with Grogu.
I would call it cat.
It's cat.
When it's kids, it's fetch. When it's dogs, it's fetch.
Okay, well,
yeah.
Fair enough. So they're being, and it's with the Force, and it's very cute. And there's a couple lines that I think are notable here. Like his kind of maybe feels a little conflicted. He's basically saying, I can't train you. You're too powerful, which I think is a very interesting kind of mentality. And then also basically saying, we're going to find the people who you belong. And he's kind of maybe projecting a little bit, where he's like, he found a people where felt like he could belong when he was abandoned, right? And he's like, I'm going to help do the same thing for you. You're going to find somewhere where you belong, and they're going to take good care of you, right? It is touching stuff. But really, I think, again, what all it's doing here is because right when it cuts from this scene to the title card, which is the tragedy, I saw people like online saying, "Oh no!" They physically like had a reaction to that. I think that's on
it
purpose.
made my heart drop. I was like, "Oh no! What do you mean?" When I saw that title card,
I just think also it's a little bit of a heavy word to use for.
It is.
The most tragic thing that happens in this episode is the ship gets exploded.
No, Grogu gets kidnapped.
Right, I understand that, but he's still alive. It doesn't feel like a tragedy, in the strictest sense of the word.
It's a tragedy in terms of where they're at in the story structure, right? The tragedy is needed at this point. I would just mention though that when you talk about the dialogue, I think this is a good example of the Mandalorian being sentimental, which is something we haven't seen in basically any other episode. And in all the other episodes, we've sort of been grasping at straws for a little character development out of Mandalorian, and this is
right.
I mean, it's kind of spoon-fed to you, but at the same time, it's a little bit of growth for the character. He's opening up a bit with Grogu.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Yeah, I would say too that even when he's talking to Grogu, and he's saying, they're going to take care of you, but you have to go with them, okay? I felt like he's also kind of talking to himself. Yeah. He's talking about that he needs to let go as well, because it's going to be hard for Mando too. Right. So I think he's talking to Grogu, but he's also meaning that for himself, and that I need to let the kid go, and I need him to go with people who can take care of him better.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I actually think this scene is one of the better parts of this episode for me.
Yeah, I
think it works really well. So and I think it does everything it's supposed to do for this scene. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we get to Tython, and there's a couple things here. Another thing I'll mention about Tython is the only reintroduction we've had of it into the new canon is through a Dr. Aphra story, comic book. Dr. Aphra is an Imperial scientist. I'm sure Rachel knows a little bit of Dr.
She's
Aphra.
She's so cool. Yeah.
Everyone says that. She's like a sassy, like she kind of like talks back to Vader. It's like, I don't know.
She's awesome. I haven't read all of that stuff, but I've read some of it. She also talked about her droids before, where she has BT and 000, and they're like murderous versions of C-3PO and like Chopper.
Right.
And they're always talking about like murdering humans and draining their blood, and it's super funny.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
No, anyway, I highly recommend that series.
There's I think there's also a novel. I think there's also a Dr. Aphra novel.
Yeah, I think so.
So anyway, there's a comic book where they go, Vader and her go to some former Jedi Temple or something. It's not the same one, and it's like all snowy and wintry. And because people in Star Wars have been trained to assume that every planet has only one biome,
right.
Then they assume that the whole planet would be snowy and wintry, even though we've seen the planet in like the older Republic video game, and it's more I guess like luscious. There's greenery.
You're talking about Tython?
Tython. Yeah. So this and this version is different from even both the previous versions we've seen, which is just, I guess this is a mountainous region, so it's just like rocks and like shrubs. But to me, I didn't find this like overhead shot of them like flying over this. First of all, how did they find this former Jedi Temple so quickly and like
yeah.
Is it on a map? Like, did they have a map? Like, I guess I know that's nitpicky, but it's like,
I mean,
it's one thing to find a town or a city on when you first arrive to a planet, but to just find an ancient Jedi temple on the top of a mountain.
I mean, this is weird because we're doing a bit of a role reversal here, but like the easiest way to explain any of that is it's Star Wars, man. They have some crazy technology where they can map the planet and find this thing.
Sure.
Maybe Ahsoka had a coordinates and she just told him like, oh yeah, it's kind of in like this region of the planet.
It's fine. It's just like a lot of it's like this is a lot of shorthand that normally there's at least some like throwaway reference to some answers to these things, but there's nothing here, which is annoying to me. So they find this ugly ass planet and and this Jedi temple. What did you guys make of the look of the temple itself?
Lovely. It was like Jedi Stonehenge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know what you were expecting. Like it wasn't even really a temple. I mean,
it's just a rock.
I mean, maybe it's it's the ruins of a temple, or
that's kind of what I got from it. That it's more of ruins than anything.
Yeah. Oh, and it's maybe less of a temple, more of like a shrine.
That's, I think, more accurate. Yeah, like a shrine on a mountain. It's the temple's at the bottom of the mountain, probably.
Right.
So they land the ship, and then you get this really cute shot of Mando and Grogu like flying through the. I've seen a bunch of people sketch it. It's very cute.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they land a short distance away. They fly over, and we seem to, again, you mentioned that we seem to be on like a real location. I don't know how much is real and how much is not. This is the problem with The Mandalorian. I don't know what is real and what's not half the time.
Yeah.
But it sure felt like, just from the lighting, that it was a real location, at least part of it, and then CG painted other parts. So, and it did, I guess, just for the sake of the temple itself, it does have a similar look to some of the stuff we saw in like the Jedi Fallen Order stuff.
Yeah,
from
definitely.
those ancient Jedi temples and stuff you visit, including down to the runes on the ruins. The runes on the ruins look similar and glow in a similar color. So I think that is cool, at least from a consistency standpoint. So did you guys notice anything like that?
I mean, the same stuff that you noticed. Yeah, no, I think it looks great. The one thing I would say about the environment being boring, I think it's leaning into that same Western motif that we seem to be talking about every episode. And I think if you watch a lot of Westerns, there's often
shootouts on
environments like very similar to
ridge.
This. There's always people on a ridge, people who have the high ground, and like I'm sure that's where that came from. That's the inspiration for it, right? So I think it's, again, consistent with the Western style of the series.
It's less stylized though. Like a lot of the time we see, like the stuff we saw last week with the Japanese styling stuff was more stylized, heightened. This is just like This would be like if they just went to a location they shot a Western in, and instead of cowboys and robbers, they put stormtroopers and a dude in a cloak. You know?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
but they didn't.
that's what the whole series
But they
is.
didn't style it up at all. They didn't do anything different. Like you're on the desert in Tatooine. There's these weird like farm moisture farms, and like the thing. It's like it feels more alien. This doesn't feel. It does. It look like this could be on the top of some mountain in Chile somewhere. For all I know, you know.
I mean, to play devil's advocate, not every planet in Star Wars can be like super cool.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. And they just happened to go to a boring one this week.
Yeah.
Okay. And for the record, I guess it's cool that this is like one of those rare multi-biome planets in Star Wars. So that's at least interesting. I'll give it that. Anyway, so Mando places Grogu on the Seeing Stone. This is like round boulder in the middle, and gets really impatient, waiting for something to happen. Grogu sees a blue butterfly and seems to get distracted. So Grogu starts so Mando starts to like look for like an on switch or something. I think that's kind of funny.
That was super funny. Yeah.
And so these blue butterflies, often seen in reference to the Force in the past, which is interesting in comic books and whatnot. So it seems like there is connection there. He's actually connecting. Grogu is, and just as it looks like he's about to like figure it out, Mando gets distracted by Slave One. There's a couple times that this happens where when the thing that's important for Mando to have been there for or witnessed, he's been distracted by something else. Almost like that was the plan all along, which I think is at least well executed. So he sees Slave One fly in, and I actually really like the camera work here, like this like focus, unfocus thing that they do, kind of like we're in first person. And we obviously know right away what ship that is. But the first time we saw it was in Empire, which is on behind us. And then it was heavily featured, obviously, in Episode 2, where there's a really fun like asteroid belt chase sequence with those like sonic charges. Yeah, one of the best sound effects in Star Wars. Absolutely. I really like, by the way, we get to see kind of in the cockpit again. They say, and the cockpit looks like it has consistent design, and they haven't really tweaked that again. I really like that. This kind of like round dashboard situation that he got with like the red when it's usually all blue stuff. I like it. I like it. But I just thought the look of Slave One itself, like from like a design, both by the way, Slave One as well as those drop ships that come later, I think a little bit lower quality CG than we would have expected on the show in the past.
Maybe.
And that's I think a shame.
They were definitely simplistic in terms of design. I don't know if that's
for sure
a money thing though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think they're being consistent with some of the other, like obviously those are precursors to those transports that come from the First Order later in Episode 7. You see them, but Slave One is obviously a ship that was invented in the 80s, so you know it's going to be a little bit simpler designed, I think. So
for sure.
Yeah, and that's fine. But I just would have liked a little bit more something there, and like the way it was introduced, cool, but I don't know, something it didn't have that impact I was looking for some reason. It's really hard for me to describe. I don't know why I'm feeling this way. Okay, so he turns back around, and he finds out that Grogu's been enveloped in like this blue force energy that's like shooting up into the sky, like this blue beam in the sky thing.
Right.
What do you guys make of that?
I wanted to ask both of you that same question because I wanted to ask you guys if there's any sort of like precedence or something like this to your knowledge in the Star Wars universe before this.
I'm trying to think of something. And
I was honestly trying to think too, and it's hard. Like I know a little bit you kind of see that, but it's not the same though. But you know, in Rebels when Ezra and Maul are like at that Sith temple,
right?
And there's the big like shining lights shooting up into the sky, and like it's a big weapon and all that.
Right.
Like, I can't really think of anything else that is exactly like that. Blue aura.
Yeah, and especially the way it reacts, like you can't get in and penetrate it in any way.
Yeah.
Like I think that's interesting. I don't know. I've never seen anything like that either. This is new, but she did say, Ahsoka said, the nice lady said,
yeah, the nice lady.
That's a nice line too. That it was like really powerful or close to the Force. So this is maybe just like a conductor, you know.
It seemed like it was like Force energy, I guess.
Right.
You know, in a way that it's reaching out to other Jedi or other higher Force sensitive beings. But it's almost like a beacon, maybe that it's where he is.
That's cool. I think that's kind of cool because it does shoot off into the sky. It's almost like it's literally reaching out to kind of like reach out to these people out in the universe, but we've never seen that look before. Because like you think of the stone that Rey and Luke use in The Last Jedi, right. They sit on like that's kind of a similar type of like channeling agent, but we don't see anything like that. I mean, he sits floating on it when he's projecting himself, but you feel like these objects, these kind of seeing stones maybe are
different.
I don't know. I think that's kind of cool though.
Yep.
I don't know. So, but yeah, we've never seen anything like that, so that's certainly new. I mentioned the runes. Mando gets thrown back as he tries to grab Grogu and decides he's going to try to buy him more time. Instead of try to get him out of there, he's going to go buy him some time as he sees this person in a cloak get out of the ship that he's not familiar with. And we're obviously getting excited because we do know who that is, and it's getting even more exciting. There's some good tension being built right here, which I think is good. So he rushes down the hill and is ambushed by a figure in robes armed with a gaffy stick and one of those slug thrower things. This part specifically, all the stuff that's on this ridge is where I feel like it doesn't have that modern Star Wars feel to me. This is where it really loses me. So it just, I feel like it's shot very simplistic. There's nothing really, like, none of the shots are very exciting or interesting. It's a lot of static shots of back and forth, their conversation. And it's basically Mando kind of interrogating Boba Fett as he kind of explains what he wants, right? So he basically says, he's like, I want my armor. And he's like, my armor? You'll have to tear it off my body. Oh, you mean the other armor, right? And it's like, are you a Mandalorian? He's like, I'm just a simple man trying to make my way through the galaxy. But by the way, great line.
Yeah.
Call back to Jango Fett. I like that. It's slightly different, not exactly one for one, which I think is important. Obviously, the first time you ever met a Jedi, right? You remember that line. You don't think that's how it stood out for him? I don't know. I don't know.
What does it have to do with Mandalorian?
Yeah, I don't know.
I do agree with you though. This scene, in terms of the clunkiness of the dialogue,
right.
It does seem like it's one of those conversations where the characters are conveniently saying just the wrong thing to each other.
Right.
If they just said the right thing, they'd probably just shake hands and walk away. You know?
There's so many questions, and this is a part of the reason I was really not liking this episode. I think they don't know how to write Boba Fett right.
Could be, yeah.
And maybe it's my expectations of what Boba Fett's supposed to be, but he was never this like noble, honorable character. This has never been the way he's been portrayed ever, ever, ever. Never once. Mm-hmm. So at least not in canon. So that's really strange to me. He's a much older character now. I get that he's gone through a lot, but like this is a drastic turn for me. Like this way he kind of talks about how like getting his armor back for him, the deal's not over until the baby's safe. Like what the fuck are you talking about?
Especially because they never actually made the deal. He just said it and got ambushed.
Which is one of those like we've been talking about specific language this whole time, and they don't even make. And he even uses this exact loophole in the last episode where he agreed to nothing. Right.
Yeah.
So like, unless they all had like a silent agreement when they saw the ship arrive, they're like, okay, we're doing it. You know.
Maybe Boba Fett is more inclined to help him because of the armor, because of the Mandalorian connection. You know, he's less likely to be the scoundrel when he's dealing with his own kind, potentially.
Yeah,
maybe
that's true.
There's the other possibility that he's playing a long con. That's also possible. I feel like less likely, just based on what we've seen from Disney Star Wars, but I think would be more interesting personally if you really you wanted to really cut Mando down by the end of season 2. You have him betrayed by Boba Fett. Like this idea that he was surprised or shocked that the Empire is back, right? When he sees that ship, which by the way, he was just fighting a bunch of stormtroopers. Why is he shocked that the Empire's back?
Yeah.
Makes no sense. Makes no sense.
I think it's because he sees like the bigger ship and he's like, oh, okay, this isn't just like a small thing.
It's not even a full Star Destroyer. It's a light cruiser.
That's
I don't know. It just like that stuff is like really. It's like it's all adding up for me to be like this is annoying. I'm not excited about what's happening. So anyway, I like seeing Temuera Morrison back. I'm a big Temuera Morrison fan. Just generally, I liked everything he did as Jango and as the clones. I thought he was great. I liked him as Aquaman's dad in the Aquaman movie. But I think that this is a strange way to introduce the character, especially for maybe more casual fans who, by the way, his name is dropped offhandedly in an offhand remark by Ming-Na Wen's character
Right.
off. He's not like when his name is said, his face isn't even on the screen. It's crazy. It's like I feel like I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, but like this feels like basic filmmaking stuff 101 that I feel like dropping the ball on. I don't know. What do you guys feel about his introduction? The first time we see him in like properly introduced.
Rachel?
I mean, I thought he looked really cool. He looks weathered and he's older and his like head's all scarred up, which I'm like kind of interested to know where all that comes from, whether it comes from the Sarlacc pit or it comes from being on Tatooine for God knows how long. I just thought he looked very cool, but I totally get what you mean about how you don't hear when you hear his full name for the first time, it's kind of offhand.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a strange choice.
And I did feel like the whole kind of standoff thing was literally just made to make Mando put his jetpack down. Yeah,
that's what I mean when it feels plotty. Yeah. Like why you put this? It's like everyone remember he's taking his jetpack off. This drives me nuts. So here, let me explain exactly what happens. Here. So what happens is they get into this argument, and it gets to the point where Boba says he has a sharpshooter aimed at Grogu on the mountain, and she says, "I never miss." And he's like, "Oh, what? Fennec Shan, I thought you were dead, you know?" And she's like, "Oh, good ear." Like also dumb line.
She said good ear.
She's like, "Oh, you missed it." Like you recognized her voice.
Good ear, Mando.
Like, what the fuck? Anyway, weird choice. That's fine. So they're having the standoff, and he's like, "I will kill you all if you try to harm Baby Yoda." He threatens them all, right? And to defuse the situation, Boba's like, "Okay, let's make a deal. Fennec will stand down if you put away your jetpack," which it seems like a non sequitur. Like it doesn't even track to me as an argument.
The power dynamics are all over the place. There's no leverage kind of on either side.
Right.
Or it's
well, Boba has all the leverage, technically, in this case.
Well, the way the Mandalorian plays it, it sounds the opposite, right? He has those the whistling dervishes or whatever.
Whistling birds. Whirling dervishes, is that what you're thinking of?
I don't remember what they're called.
What are you, from 1928?
But look, I mean, he can take them both out with that. It's just like, it's not clear which side has the upper hand, so why are they negotiating at all?
I don't know. This is what I mean. This is what I'm talking about.
I get it. I guess maybe I've lowered the bar. Like I'm not expecting too much from the show. Like,
and this is why it's interesting for me, because I've been fine basically with the writing and dialogue choices throughout the season. This one stood out as being particularly clunky. I think we can all agree that Star Wars has a inherent clunkiness to its storytelling from time to time. Sure. Oh, right? Yeah. So I'm okay with that. It's like when it comes in like this large abundance, that's where it's like, okay, things are like, this is weird to me. Anyway, so you're right about that, Rachel. That was purely so that you could.
It was just to nerf him.
To nerf Mando, so he didn't have his jetpack, so he couldn't fly back and forth between the top of the mountain.
Yeah, that was one of the things that like obviously like bugged me a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Like they had to get his jetpack away from him somehow to make this whole thing work, right? So
right.
And it's like, why couldn't he just pick it up again?
He doesn't. I know, that's what drives me nuts.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Too much is going on.
I don't know. So, anyway, that works. So they all decide they're gonna have a quick chat. So Mando is surprised to see that Fennec is alive, thinking that she was left for dead in Tatooine. Apparently, Boba saved her and got her surgery in time to save her life, and because of this, she's now in his debt. Okay, I can buy all that. That's fine. Sure. I do like the cutaway, like her stomach with like the pistons going and stuff.
Yeah, that was cool.
Doesn't make any sense, but it's cool. It reminds me of like the like Luke's hand.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And they're having this brief conversation. There's a reference to his time in the Sarlacc when he said, I too was left for dead on Tatooine, and maybe that's why he doesn't like the Empire. I'm still trying to track that because he was working for the Empire when he like.
Well, he's a bounty hunter. It's not like he has an allegiance. He's not a bad guy or a good guy.
He's just over himself. He says they're back. Like he's like worried about it. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's probably not great for business to have a ruling party for him. Like the chaos is better for Boba Fett.
Maybe we don't even know what Boba Fett's motives are right now. Like, where was he this whole time? Like, what if he knew about Cobb? If he knew about Cobb Vanth having the armor, why did he wait until now to try to get it back? If he, why didn't he go get it back from Cobb?
Maybe he just found out that Cobb had it, and then when he saw Mando take it, he was like, "Oh, okay, there it is."
I mean, that's possible. Then, like, what happened between his like losing the armor and now? You know, like
we'll see.
These are questions I want to know.
That's just more story.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
We're not going to go through all that right now.
I want to know. Damn it. Okay. So we see her weird cyborg stomach, and she's the one who references Boba Fett's name for the first time. So she works for him now, and they're willing to trade the safety of him, Mando, and the child in exchange for the armor, which is kind of like, I won't kill you, which sounds like, the deal sounds like, I won't kill you if you give me the armor, right? But the way that they interpreted it, the ones who made the deal, are interpreting it as, we're actually going to actively help you.
We said the words baby and safe, so we have to make sure this baby is safe forever now.
Right, yes.
That's how deals work.
Okay. So... It's just strange, very specific language to very vague, unspecific language.
Yeah.
So it's a strange choice. So I think it says, see, this is what I said, right? I wrote this down. See, this feels very clunky to me. So this is like what I'm talking about, this Boba Fett honorable thing. It just seems like a little bit out of left field for me, but I'm willing to let them kind of explain what maybe the change of heart, what he's gone through over those 25 years, whatever it was, that made him a different person. I'm willing to hear that out.
For sure.
But it is feel like a drastic change for this character. So before anything can be agreed on, a transport ship that looks a lot like the Stormtrooper dropships from the First Order flies overhead, and Mando makes a run for the get back to the top of the mountain. And he leaves his jetpack behind for some reason. He's standing right next to it. He could just fly up there. It would save so much time, but no, he leaves it behind because the script said so. And he tries to grab Grogu through the blue energy, but is knocked back and is, like, I guess, knocked out for a while because he's not present for this whole opening action scene.
He cuts away. You don't know what the timing is like.
Yeah.
Anyway, so meanwhile, Boba and Fennec Shan are setting up to take on whoever's coming out of these transport ships, because I guess they weren't expecting the Empire. So we get this action scene. Any thoughts on this? Everything that's led up to this moment so far.
I mean, I think
we went over it. Yeah.
In terms of the action scene, though, I think I am a big fan of what they did with the action in this episode.
Yeah, me too.
Specifically the melee weapon stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing
really
stormtroopers get just wrecked and actually like their armor being broken apart.
Yeah,
it's something you don't really see with the blasters and lightsabers. So
yeah,
it's true. It's usually it's much cleaner cuts.
Right.
I want to find a thing. I captured this. I don't know where the heck I put it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the Gaffy Stick, and what's interesting about the Gaffy Stick, which is the weapon of the Sand People, is that it's actually based on a weapon, a Fijian weapon. So it's got a similar background to like a Pacific Islander background, same as Timor Morrison does. It's pretty cool, and it looks almost identical. The only difference is the Gaffy Stick has a spear on the other end. Mm-hmm. The traditional, like, ancient weapon
is just more of a club.
It's just more of a club, but it has that like pointy end on that, like the weird shaped pointy end. So I wish I could find it here, but I screenshotted it.
Do you know what it's meant to be made out of in universe?
It's not clear. Maybe a bone.
It doesn't matter.
My guess would be a bone, but it's hard to say. I wish I could find it. Darn. Anyway, if I do find it, I'll link to it somewhere in the show notes or something. Okay. So I thought that was interesting, and seeing that the melee stuff was great. So the action sequence starts, and this is where Robert Rodriguez gets to flex his action chops.
Yeah.
And because I love this very first shot of the sequence, which is like from the inside of the transport ship as the stormtroopers come up, very Starship Troopers, very like Saving Private Ryan, D-Day scene. I really like that. Although this is again where things look cheap to me, because as these stormtroopers ran out of this transport ship, I don't know if it's the way that they move. I know stormtroopers already have a weird way of moving, but there's something about them looked off to me, and I don't know what it is.
Can I make a comment about this? And I've probably noticed this before, and maybe I brought it up before, but I hate the weird little like crotch thing that they have. It looks like a weird jock strap. I hate it. And to me, it looked like they were flopping around a lot more in this episode. And I just looked at it and I was like, ugh, ew. Like, it just grossed me out.
Their cod piece?
Is that what that's called? Why can't that be inside their pants? Why does that need to be outside?
It provides more protection that way.
Yeah, I know they're from the 80s and 70s. Like they always look like that, but it just bugs me. Like I hate it. So those are my 2 cents on how they looked.
That is very funny. I never noticed that specific element. I'll just say, but for me, there's something off about the look of these stormtroopers, and I don't know what it was. And it's also, this is a thing that always happens in Star Wars, so it doesn't really bother me. But as long as I'm highlighting things that are dumb, I'm gonna highlight it here. The amount of stormtroopers that come out of these ships is completely inconsistent. It makes no sense. It's how many are in there, and it seems like there's always more. It's like, again, this happens in Star Wars in almost all movies all the time. It's like, I get it. I understand it, but it does still annoy me, you know? I don't know if you guys notice any of that stuff.
That didn't bug me. It didn't bug me how many of them were coming out of those ships, but
okay.
I guess I'm in the middle. I notice it, but it doesn't. I don't care enough to let it take me out of the experience.
I do like the troop chatter that we get here, like the kind of the talking sound very consistent with Star Wars. I like that. I like getting to see I think it's a lieutenant or captain, the orange pauldron we saw originally in the very first, episode 4. Which is always fun for some reason. The pauldrons do it for me with armor. I'm a big fan of that.
I know how much you love pauldrons and the skirts and everything.
The command skirts and the pauldrons. And if you put them together, you have ARC troopers, and that is dope. So, okay, so Boba takes on a bunch of troopers on his own, and he shows off his skills with the Gaffy Stick. Dan mentioned this. I've mentioned all this stuff already. So, okay. I do like the armor breaking apart, and like especially that shot of that guy's crushed head.
Yeah, just brutal. Shattering. It was brutal looking.
Yeah. We haven't really seen this kind of you don't see this type of melee really in Star Wars ever.
And even in Mandalorian, it's very much been a Disney show. I mean, there's been some grittiness to it, but usually when the Mandalorian's fighting, he's kind of just typically getting his ass kicked and just eking out a victory.
Right.
Yeah.
But
including here today.
Yeah. But in this, it's Boba Fett being aggressive.
Right.
It's new for the show. And I like
aggressive. Right.
Exactly.
There's 2 B's in his name too. Okay. Meanwhile, Fennec is facing off against another squad or something, and this is cool because it's we see a mortar stormtrooper for the first time.
Yeah.
It's not space. It's not very spacey. It just seemed like a standard World War II mortar, but he was wearing the trooper armor, so it works. And the yellow paint is cool. And they're also using the E-Web cannon, which we've now seen and named in this series, but it's also first time we saw it was in Empire, which is also on behind us.
I hated that thing. It looked like a t-shirt cannon. That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, that looks like those stupid t-shirt cannons.
So she pushes a boulder off and it crushes it. Did any of this did that strike you as kind of being weird at all, or does that was fun for you guys?
That was just very comical, kill a bunch of stormtroopers in a unique way. And why did he keep shooting that giant rock? Why didn't he just jump
away? Just jump away.
He thought he could blow it up.
He's doing no damage to it. He had no effect.
I mean, this is not new information, guys. Stormtroopers aren't exactly renowned.
It's exactly. It's just the typical bumbling troopers.
Yeah.
So that's what I enjoyed. I was kind of laughing at these kind of things. But
you guys think that was a reference to Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Maybe.
No? Maybe a little bit.
But
hard to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's running on this top of this cliff, and it's cool and all. Boba steps in to take out the captain / lieutenant, and in a brutal fashion, stabs through his chest. Yeah. And he sees that Mando's ship is just open for some reason, so he's gonna go get his armor back.
Mm-hmm.
And so we cut back, and Fennec is doing this cool backwards roll shoot thing. She shoots 2 stormtroopers as she's jumping backwards off of a rock.
Right. Yeah.
It is cool. I will give the show that. That is pretty cool.
Well, it's cool because they made such a point of making her seem like this badass assassin in the first season. Yeah. And you didn't really see too much of that.
No.
So I like seeing her in action for sure.
I still like her helmet a lot.
Me too, actually.
Cool headwear.
No, she was just one-shotting dudes left and right. It was,
He's badass.
She was very badass.
I'm a big fan of Ming-Na Wen. I think she's a great actress.
Yeah, same.
Okay, so we cut back to Mando, and this is the first time we've seen him for this whole action sequence, and he's making one more attempt to grab Grogu. So apparently he's been doing that the whole time, and it's not been working. Mando decides he's instead going to go protect Grogu and just runs off to face the troopers. And then as soon as he does that, the Force energy stops and Grogu falls over and gets tired, falls asleep. Yeah, very cute, but poor timing. So, so let's hold on. Let's pause here. What do you think that means? He was kind of doing that for a very long time. Do you think he was having conversation with somebody, like a Force kind of communion, or was he? Was there like a resolution? Did someone like say, "Okay, I found you on my way," or like because there's a line earlier like it's a seeing stone. Are you seeing anything, or is someone seeing you, or whatever? Like I did like that line. What do you think happened here?
I mean, I guess to me, those are like the questions that we'll have answered eventually or hopefully. But I don't know. It's either that he's reaching out and like finding out where he needs to go next. Like maybe someone else, I don't know, gets that connection and is like, oh, hey, come here. And then somehow he can relay that to Mando or whatever. Or it's the opposite, that like that trace reaches another Jedi and then they can try and find him, or maybe it reaches nobody. So I'm kind
of getting that. It would be interesting if they did something similar to what they did with The Last Jedi when they send out that beacon and then no one responds. And there's something similar here, where like he sends out the beacon, but kind of it's a dead end. There's something that could be said about that being interesting, but it just seems that's probably not what's going to happen.
Well, it's unlikely because he was also kidnapped in this episode. Like, what's the significance of him using that thing if nothing comes of it?
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah.
Right. I think, Rachel, I would agree with what you said at first. It's baby Yoda, or Grogu, I guess I should say, communing with the Force and learning where he needs to go next. So he's going to be the one that has to act upon it. It's like sitting at the world tree, you know?
Sure.
In mythology, like you sit at the world tree to at the navel of the world to learn. That's where Buddha goes to learn. Whatever.
Okay. All right. No, it's fine.
I get it. Yeah.
We've never really had Grogu kind of make active decisions or choices on his own. We've never seen him do that, other than a couple times. So we've seen him, I guess, choose to save Mando with the Mudhorn.
Yes.
That's like a choice he makes and does, and then when he saves them from the fire as well. But I think those are basically it for like active choices. He other than also eats eggs.
Eats a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Eats a bunch of eggs and eats a bunch
frogs.
of stuff. Yeah.
I mean, maybe this is also a way where Mando, if and when he gets him back, or maybe they get Ahsoka to help, but like maybe it's another reason why like Grogu and Ahsoka need to be able to like talk to each other again, so that she can kind of translate what he saw or who he talked to. But
I mean, I'm sure we'll see her again this season. I would not.
I hope so. Yeah.
Shocked. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of question marks here. It's going to be interesting. I think, like I said, I think this sets up there's a lot of. You can say this about the show. It's done a good job of setting up a very unexpected ending. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm trying to predict the events of the. We know there's going to be some sort of prison break. Next week probably, unless they just gloss over that. And then some sort of like rescue mission. So that's really cool. Very kind of like rescue Leia from the Death Star kind of mission maybe. He's even got the little tiny binders on. So
they're so cute. Where did they get some so small?
Well, they knew they were going to capture him, so they built that. That one I'm okay with. I think the nitpicking on that is like they don't just carry those around for everyday use.
I just thought
for
they
arresting
were so
children.
Cute. I was like, oh, they have little baby handcuffs.
Okay, so Mando decides he's going to go protect Grogu, and he runs off, and Grogu goes to sleep. Mando and Fennec have like a last stand moment as they take on troopers like back to back, and I also thought this was dumb because like he's taken so many shots here. Like it just does it even matter? Like is there any stakes at all?
Well, not when the stormtroopers are using those little dinky guns, but with the other
E-Web, yeah, I guess. So, but he like there's like here's the thing that also is weird. I don't know if it's just like maybe they put too many blaster bolts. Like he didn't have to be hit by that many, but there's ones where like he's not reacting to them, like he's turning into them, and it's having no effect on him. And it's like that's kind of weird. Like it's just like obviously those are put in after, obviously because there's no such thing as blaster bolts, but they're put in after, and then like it doesn't seem to make sense to the physicality of the performance.
Yeah,
which is also kind of strange. You know, you didn't need more blaster bolts; you just need believable ones. You know. Okay, so she uses his whistling birds again. Which is important because I don't think he's that many left, and without the armor, I don't know how he gets more. So, yeah.
Melt down that spear.
Yeah, I guess. There's got to be more to it than there's just. It's not just best. Like there's got to be something else to it than just Beskar, right? I don't know. So Mando tells Fennec to go. You get out of here. He says that he owed her from last time. So do you know what he's talking about?
I have no idea. I was meaning to go back and watch the ending of that episode, and I forgot.
I should have done the same thing, but I don't know. What does he mean? Because she got shot and almost died, and he should have helped her?
Yeah, I guess. Because like his whole thing was like keep her alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it was the other dude who shoots her,
right?
So maybe that's why he feels bad for that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's some kind of like honor among thieves situation, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
Okay. So that again, it's another weird line. It's like, you're gonna sacrifice your life for this person you barely know to I don't know. This is where I feel like there's some problematic points. Okay, Mando takes like 100 shots, and I guess they're I don't know. I'm just annoyed. Boba flies.
I can tell.
But just when it looks like they're about to get overrun, Boba flies in and in his armor, and we get some badass hero shots of Boba in the armor again, rocking that full-on dad bod. He's got a.
I was gonna say.
It's so funny, and even so, we have Martinson89.
Yeah.
In the Twitch says, "Dad Boba, Dad bod Boba. This is the way."
Have you not seen people calling him Boba Fett?
No, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Because and then this is where it kind of like that.
Okay,
I know. But this is kind of where it kind of feels like that fan film again, where it's like we have the armor, but it's like we couldn't find anyone that could kind of fit it properly. Right. So it's like, just believe us. This is Boba Fett. Just trust us.
I appreciate that they didn't try to make the armor fit him, him better. It's
right.
I appreciate the fact that they kept it no, he is a different body shape. That's fine. It's been, I don't know how many years, and he's been wherever. So,
well, 20, I think he makes the mention it's been 25 years. So
something like that. Yeah. So yeah, it's just,
he's put on a couple pounds.
Yeah. It's fine. Yeah. It's totally fine.
But no, I appreciate that they made it look okay, it doesn't quite fit the way it used to, but that's what, I liked it. I thought it was funny. And
he certainly looked better in it than Cobb Vanth did.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Argue. Yeah.
He was still badass in it. That whole scene is unreal.
Yeah, and the music is really cool too. I really like that, and they also do some really fun stuff with the speed of motion. So there's this slow zoom in, then cuts back to full speed, kind of in the middle of it. I like that. That's very again action fun type of filmography.
Yeah,
fan of that. But I would be excited to see Boba kind of get take a buff to his armor and kind of clean things up if he's going to get his own spin-off show.
For sure.
That'll come. You just got to back this episode.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm not blaming him for the condition of the armor. I'm just saying he does certainly look a little bit gently used.
Yeah. I definitely liked his little knee shots.
Yeah, so
I was like, those are cool.
He has stupid knee darts, but I guess when you think about it, they're not any stupider than the wrist darts that Mando has. So
no. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But...
they're actually those are first mentioned in this visual dictionary, Star Wars visual dictionary.
Oh, so that's not new to this show. That's
so that they've never been seen before in action. But you know what? You remember you open up those big white books that had the diagrams of everything. Those are my favorite books. So in one of those visual dictionaries for Star Wars, probably Empire, we see it breaks down every part of his armor, and then his knee things have knee darts, and they've never been seen. We've never seen them used before. They've just been referenced in that one book, and they put them in here, which I think is fun. The way it plays out is so stupid too, because he puts his leg up, and he just he's like, ha ha, and
he does a Captain Morgan's rum pose, and then he kills two guys, and the rest of them get scared of his knee darts and run away.
And they just run away,
back to their ship. They run away. I will give the show this though: when he shoots the rocket, and
awesome,
and the two ships crash into each other. It is and then he turns around and then explodes behind him. That is fucking cool. That's fucking badass.
It was so cool.
I have to agree that is certainly badass.
Yeah.
And he certainly makes it look cooler than Cobb did when he shot the rocket, right?
So much
Less
cooler.
of this with this waist bend thing that he was doing, and he just the way he I don't know, the whole thing I thought was cooler. And I think on purpose. I also like how they're oh, I was aiming for the other one. That's a good comedic diffusion, which is good.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on the action sequence? Because it's winding up here.
I think that covers it.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed everything, but
well, it's not just an action sequence. We also get Boba in his full armor again, which I think is important to mention.
Right, but there's not a lot of plot points to talk about.
Yeah, no. As they celebrate, the Razor Crest gets destroyed by a shot from Moff Gideon's cruiser, just completely boom. Gone, vaporized.
Ugh.
What did you guys think of that? I liked that ship. I liked it.
Me too. I thought it was heartbreaking. I just feel bad for Mando because he's just had that ship beaten up so many times and put it back together, and you are not putting it back together.
Oh my God. I saw. So I was, when I was writing my notes, I had paused right when he was looking through the wreckage. Mm-hmm. And just at the moment I paused, I didn't do this on purpose. It just looked like he was standing in the middle of the wreckage with his head down, like Charlie Brown. And it's really sad. And I wanted to screen grab it or something because I feel like that's a funny gif. But I liked that ship, and it had just been kind of redone, fixed up, good to go, and then it's blown up. And this is another part of the reason I think that possibly there's a long con situation happening here with Boba, because why isn't Slave One blown up? They're all standing there together. There's no way he's got more than one gun on that ship. He could blow up both.
But Gideon wasn't after Boba Fett. He was after.
He's after.
Right, but he doesn't know. But he doesn't know who these fucking people are on the ground and why they're killing his troopers. Do you think Moff Gideon's the type that's gonna not shoot first, ask questions later?
Maybe they didn't see Slave One because I don't know, but
right, I don't know.
They were clearly after the Razor Crest, right? They had a tracker on the Razor Crest, so that part makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
The fact that Slave One is also there, whatever.
Well, it's also weird because he flies right up to right up to the cruiser. They don't engage him at all. Nothing happens. No warning shots. Nothing.
Nobody was looking at their computers because they were all looking at Grogu.
Yeah.
I don't know, but these are questions that doesn't make sense. So we shall see what happens there. Maybe I'm just looking into it too much, but I'm trying to make sense of something that's not making a lot of sense. So they are like, shit. The ship is destroyed. There's another cruiser coming in, another transport ship with more stormtroopers in it, so Mando goes back up to the top, but he doesn't take his jetpack. He's again standing there, but he's going to run back up to the top because
time is of the essence.
Yeah, we cut to Moff Gideon's cruiser, and Gideon asks if the Dark Troopers have been engaged.
So cool.
This is the first official, I suppose, confirmation line of dialogue on the show. These are Dark Troopers, and we see them launch from the ship like they're drop troopers, which they kind of are, which is really cool to see. Mm-hmm. So it's a race to the top, and Mando and Fennec tried to get up to Grogu first, and Boba goes to his ship. That's where he was going. I was trying to think of something. He goes off to Slave One to do something, and so they're racing there, but the Dark Troopers get there first. And they grab Grogu and they fly off with him. Boba follows the Dark Troopers. At first he's going to engage, but Fennec says, no, don't hurt the kid. So that she says, I'll do a loose follow, which is kind of, I don't like those. I'm not a fan. So he does a loose follow and follows them up in above the clouds, and he sees Moff Gideon's cruiser, and he's for some reason shocked. We talked about this already. Shocked by the appearance of the Empire. And Fennec is also surprised, and she says this line about the Outer Rim is under the jurisdiction of the New Republic. Again, we talked about this earlier. Clunky line. I also thought the line reading was also done clunkily. It was not a great line reading, and raises more question than it answers. It's just a kind of strange choice to include. So, and then Boba says it's not a spice stream, which I think is fun.
I like
and
that. Yeah.
Heads back as Gideon's cruiser jumps to hyperspace without engaging Slave One at all, and that's the battle. Mm-hmm. Again, fun seeing Slave One in action here, but what do you guys make of the Dark Troopers, any of that kind of stuff?
I liked the Dark Troopers. I also got a really brief Lord of the Rings feel from that scene.
What are you talking about?
Okay. And I'm really bad with being able to say where this was, but when
Hilltop.
Wow. What's the
Weathertop?
When he gets stabbed, when he gets stabbed with that dagger and all the wraiths are there and all that, it just the formation of the stones and everything and
Weathertop, Amon Sul.
Yeah, it just gave me. I was like, oh yeah, it made me think. It just made me think of Lord of the Rings in that one scene. But
I can see it. Yeah, it's sort of the mountain itself kind of looks similar to Weathertop and the rock formations and such. Mm-hmm. I get that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I think that's not the first. I think comparison I've heard to that scene there. I wonder if that was intentional or not.
But no, but I liked the Dark Troopers. I thought they were pretty cool looking. So I wanted to see them do more stuff. But
yeah, seriously, I think maybe that's the point. It's ooh, look how cool, badass looking they are. Yeah. And there's two things that could happen. They look really badass and they're not that functional, and that's played for laughs.
Yeah.
Or or they really are badass, and we see them kick ass and then get chopped up by a lightsaber.
Yeah,
probably.
like honestly, I think it would have been just better if they had
a shootout.
Yeah, like if Mando had his jetpack and then he was like flying up in the air chasing after them after they already had Baby
I didn't even
Yoda.
consider that.
Like,
you're right. That is way cooler.
I thought that'd be better. And then maybe he can lose, that battle up in the
Right.
air or something like that, right? Instead, but.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think having a stand or having Mando actually fight them would give us, as an audience, a better idea of what they're capable of. Because right now, they look cool and imposing, but we really don't know anything about them other than that.
Yeah.
So that would have been a cool way to start, and he would have had to lose this battle. But then after he gets his crew together, take him out in the next, episode 7 and 8, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think the one reason they wouldn't do that is if the Death Troopers are as badass as we believe them to be, they would have had to kill him. Like he wouldn't have lost the battle without really losing.
Right.
So I think they just are saving it all for the end.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Still disappointing, a little bit. Okay, so after the battle, Mando is going through the wreckage. He's having his Charlie Brown moment, and he finds Grogu's favorite knob. So it's good that he was able to find that.
So cute.
And he also finds the Beskar spear. These seem to be like the only two things that have really survived.
Does this mean that his gun is gone? The disintegrating one?
I was going to say, including his slug thrower.
Dude. Yeah.
No, it's gone. He was on that ship, and it's for sure destroyed. I wonder if he'll get a different one. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Or maybe they'll both get one, and then that will give Boba Fett his version of that gun, which is based off in the first place. So that was kind of like a full circle there. So this is so stupid. So he finds the Beskar spear. Nothing else seems to have survived, including a Thrug Slower. Boba uses the Beskar spear as a segue to talk about his own armor, showing Mando that it's so stupid. He's like, "Oh yeah, it must suck. Here, let me show you something."
I think he's just showing him because he's trying to be like, "Yeah, I know I took this off your ship, but like, here's why." Like he's proving the lineage.
Yes.
But, yeah.
So Mando is showing. He shows Mando the chain code that's been programmed into the armor for 25 years, or at least he says so. So the Mandalorian text that comes up on that hologram has been translated, kind of. Some of it's not able to be made out. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's mostly just like abbreviations and shorthand and stuff. It's not that exciting. But it does do a couple things. It confirms what Boba says about Jango and about how Jango was, in fact, a foundling himself, was brought in. So this, I guess, let me back up a little bit. There is a lot of expanded universe stuff that talks about Jango Fett and what he did before the events of Attack of the Clones, or before he was even recruited by Dooku for the Clone Army and all that stuff. Basically, prior to Episode 1 is the Mandalorian Civil War. This is what ends up having the Death Watch folks, like the more extremists, outcast to the moon of Concord, right? Or Concord Dawn, which is another planet in the system. So they talk about these stories talk about how Jango was at one point kind of adopted by this, like the head of Death Watch or something like that at that time. I don't know all the details here, and there's a lot of this stuff, so I didn't feel like going too deep into it because I think we're going to get some of these answers in the show, and then some of it's going to be recanonized and maybe a little bit more simplified, streamlined fashion. But basically, it's that there's a little bit of a synergy here because Jango turns out that he is technically a Mandalorian if you count foundlings as Mandalorians, right? So that kind of clears up that question of, Prime Minister Almec saying that he's just a common bounty hunter in the Clone Wars, and then you have Boba saying that they are Mandalorians or he's a foundling. It's even weirder because he's a clone of a foundling, so it's like where's that line drawn? But basically, it reconfirms to a lot of people that Boba Fett is technically Mandalorian in some fashion.
And I think more importantly than confirming it for Boba is confirming it for the audience.
Right.
Other way around rather. Confirming it for the audience is great, but confirming it for Boba is more important because he believes this, and he's treating his armor with this type of respect. And he really, he emphasizes his lineage and his father. So,
and it's important for Mando too because he takes that stuff very seriously.
And that's why this new spin on Boba Fett being more honorable. I think it has more to do with the armor and Mandalorian than it does with his character previous to this.
Maybe that'd be really. I'm just interested to see how they take it. And just mentions of Jango Fett is interesting at all. Again, these ties to the prequels are always, I think people like to see those kind of threads drawn. Obviously, Boba doesn't make any reference to Jango Fett in any of the prequel movie or in the original series because that character didn't exist yet.
And
right?
Boba doesn't really have too many lines.
He doesn't
either.
do anything. And I guess that's another point. So, like, guys, Boba Fett's been a character that people have loved forever, and he's never done anything. In fact, he's always looked dumb. When he only ever looked incapable of doing cool stuff when he gets knocked into the Sarlacc pit.
Right. Yeah.
And so this is a little bit of a redemption for the character here.
Mm-hmm.
Then for me, I just wish there was a little bit, there's a little bit more grandeur to it, less of this like backlot feel, you know?
Yeah.
Well, it's coming.
Yeah. I did heard some rumblings about people being a little bit like annoyed that shouldn't Mando know the name Boba Fett because it was in the Bounty Hunters Guild, but I don't know whether there's like different guilds and different factions.
We also don't know when Mando joined.
We
don't know when Mando joined, and we don't like if that was 25 years ago. You know, Mando could have been like he was like a teenager. He wasn't maybe like
no, but it's a good point because how many Mandalorians do you see in the Star Wars universe? And Boba Fett is clearly one of the most famous bounty hunters in the Star Wars universe,
right?
Yeah,
in the galaxy, right?
So yeah, you're just like I know, but to me, I was like, that's just kind of like I think you're picking at it a little too hard. But
it's a big, exactly. It is a big galaxy, and although they like to shrink it as much as possible at times,
exactly.
It's conceivable that he just didn't know of that person.
And it's like maybe he was a big name for a while there, but then he disappeared, and there's probably other bigger names.
Well, he disappeared, and the people who were hiring him kind of got unseated from power. So it's like, who's going to talk about him? The New Republic's not going to hire him. Even if he was around.
Sure.
Yeah.
So.
But you would expect that because the Mandalorian joins the guild, Din Djarin joins the guild. You would expect other bounty hunters seeing a bounty hunter wearing Mandalorian armor to associate that with
Boba,
or to be scared, or like you would expect him to have encountered that at some point in his life.
Yeah. So, and maybe we'll have a conversation where he finds out more. Who knows? Okay, so Mando agrees that the armor belongs to Boba and thinks that their deal is done, but Boba says that until the child is safe, both him and Fennec are in his debt. So, okay, we'll take him at his word. And then I just said this all rings as weird and plotty to me, but we talked about that already. So we cut to Navarro. There's just some kind of good-looking shots of Slave One here. Probably the best of the whole episode is it kind of flies into Navarro and through some clouds and stuff. And then it lands at the town, and we find out what that metal thing is that Kara got 2 episodes ago. So she's now officially a marshal of the New Republic. Weird that they didn't explain what that meant earlier, but that's that's fine. And so I guess she is a joiner now. I don't. I don't know, right? It's weird. Okay, I just think I think it's an odd choice to tell a bit of that Kara's story there off screen because she's having this conversation with this guy about how she's not a joiner. She's not really looking to get back involved. This thing is just thrown on her table. Next time we go back, and now she's saying, "Hey, listen, man, I'd love to help you, but I gotta follow rules." It's like a completely different, different tone, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's a strange choice. I can buy it. I can kind of understand what happened here, but it just would have been nice to have seen that.
She's a supporting character. You're not going to get the opportunity to explore every single thing with her. I agree with you largely, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mando asks for a favor. He wants to find Bill Burr's character, Mayfeld, in the prison system. Was anyone surprised that he thought that he picked that person?
Yeah, I was. But
what was so special about that guy?
That's kind of what I'm curious about. Like, I guess Mando knows something we don't. Like, is that Bill Burr's character a really good tracker, or like why would he know where?
Maybe he needs him because he has the Imperial codes or something.
Maybe
he's an ex-Imperial.
It could be actually. Yeah, that could be it.
And we don't know how ex-Imperial. Like he could be like just recently ex-Imperial. So who knows? So anyway, he's apparently serving 50 years for trying to spring a prisoner. We saw that, and being accessory to the murder of a New Republic officer. We also saw that. So that's fun. There is, if you watch the Screen Crush recap, when she flicks through all the names on that screen, they go through every single one. They translate every.
I saw that.
You can and it says this person's name, what they did.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. There's just all random stuff. I don't think there's any references to things that people know.
No.
So she finds him. They want to spring him. Kara says she seems reluctant, but it's unclear. Is she going to help or not help? It's not. I can't. Did she already help by giving him the information or?
No, it seems like after he mentions Grogu, she changes her song and she's going to help. It seems like they're really putting together their sort of Magnificent Seven version.
Right. I saw someone describe the show as the Mandalorian just can't help but make best friends. just everywhere he goes, he's just making best friends with everybody, which I think is like a very fun way to describe it, but obviously simplified. So she says they have the child, and by the way, there's a moment early in this episode when he's having this conversation with Boba and Fennec, and he's like the child's gone. Like you're just like ready to give up.
Yeah.
And it was like, what the fuck was that? Like I don't know.
How are they supposed to track it? Yeah.
So now he starts this conversation not by telling her that the child is gone and been taken, but instead sits down and has her go through a bunch of people's names and browses through it to find a guy an ex-Imperial that she probably doesn't like.
Yeah.
And then halfway through is, by the way, oh yeah, my kid was kidnapped. Like imagine that. Like you're not gonna start with that. I don't know.
That's fair.
I think now he's got her on board though.
Yeah.
I think it worked.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as it worked. We cut to Moff Gideon's cruiser, and meanwhile, Moff Gideon is busy watching Grogu fling troopers around with the Force.
So good.
Some dark side stuff going on here a little bit, seemed like, right?
He full-blown Force chokes that guy.
Yeah, I think.
Like,
I don't think either of them die though. I think
they both limp off. But.
Yeah.
But because he Force chokes once other time before too, because he chokes Kara.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot about that.
But that just proves that like he needs training because he doesn't.
Well, doesn't it prove? I think doesn't that prove the opposite? Doesn't that actually prove Ahsoka's point?
No, I think it's the opposite. I think it proves it's like he needs training to know the difference between light side and dark side. Because right now, I don't think he does.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe. I don't. I mean, I'm confident we'll see some training for Grogu at some point in the show.
Yeah. It's like any other toddler. They need to help understanding the difference between right and wrong. And of course, toddlers can hit people, and they need to be taught not to.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway, so I do like the moment when the stormtrooper's like, enough of this, and he's like, no, we're gonna let this play out.
He's just having fun watching him. Yeah.
Allow it.
Yeah.
So I just thought the dialogue here was a strange choice too, because Gideon's like, very impressive, but I know you always get very sleepy once you're done that. Like, what are you talking about? What the fuck? And then he like pulls out the Darksaber and like shows it to him. I thought the Darksaber looked really cool in this scene.
It did, yeah.
And he like shows it off. He's like, "Oh, you're too young to play with this. You'll put an eye out with that thing." Like, what? I don't know. Anyway, so they go through that. Why do you think he showed it to him? Just like a show of power?
When you think about it, really crazy for this character to be threatening like a baby.
Yeah,
with a lightsaber.
Yeah,
a baby.
Yeah, I mean, in case you wanted to know they were evil, now you definitely.
And it's also
know.
like Grogu doesn't talk,
right?
So it's a really one-sided conversation.
Yeah. Oh no. Okay.
Maybe he's just trying to get a reaction out of him to see if he like. I don't know if Grogu has any sort of recognition on his face.
Well, I was wondering if there's anything left for him to like energy for him to like try to use on Gideon.
Yeah. That too. You know? Yeah.
I don't know. That's it's just a strange choice. And so they put the tiny little binders on him, and they stun him with the stun setting of their blasters. And Gideon says that they need to send an encrypted message to Dr. Cushing. When they're out of hyperspace, that their donor has arrived, or that they have their donor. Mm-hmm. Again, we kind of assume this already, that he's a blood donor for probably Snoke's creation. We're not clear at this time. Dr. Cushing, for those who don't remember, is the doctor from season 1, and we also saw a hologram of him 2 episodes ago. So that's the episode. Any final thoughts on these last like closing sequences here? They've been really like playing up the dun 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 with Moff Gideon the last couple episodes.
Yeah.
Like really twirling that mustache, you know, and I'm okay with like an overly evil villain in Star Wars, so I'm not upset with it. Yeah.
I just think it sets up a lot of like pretty cool stuff for the next, like the last 2 episodes, because now the stakes have very much changed. So
now they're to a degree. Now there finally are stakes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
It was a whole lot of like, oh, when are they going to catch him? And now it's like, okay, here we go, because they've got him, and stuff's going to go down now. So
I don't know where it's going to go here. I know I feel like I know a couple of things, like elements that are going to be seen. Like I said, we're going to see these dark troopers cut up by a lightsaber. I'm 100% certain of that.
Yeah,
but I don't know whose lightsaber it's going to be, and I don't know how, you know, all the characters and everything that's played, like, are the frog people going to play into this at all? Like, Like, is any of this stuff gonna like come back around? I don't know. Like, I'm just saying, like, he kind of collected all these people over.
Yeah,
like,
they're gonna bring in the frog people for sure to fight
okay, all right. I was joking, all right, but like, a little bit of, are we gonna see, what's her name, Mandalorian?
Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan.
Oh,
again.
Bo-Katan's pissed. So I think definitely like Mando might try to reach out to her to be like, Gideon has the kid. Like, I need your help. It's going to be like all hands on deck. Maybe they'll go get Ahsoka. They'll get Bo-Katan, and it'll just be like a big cool.
Kind of like last season, the finale. Everyone coming together.
It really seems like it's going to be a convergence of all the people that he's met throughout all the previous episodes, all getting together towards the end for a big finale.
Right, and then
it's pretty.
And then they'll roast some stormtroopers over over an open fire. Okay,
but there's already going to be a season 3, right?
Yeah, we know that for sure. Yeah. So, in fact, I'm pretty sure. Juan Carlo Esposito, is it Giancarlo? Yeah. Said that he's like, things aren't really going to start heating up until like season 5. I'm like, who knows how much he actually knows about that, but like, and how much he's planning on playing that up. But this show is, again, we know is Disney Plus's kind of like flagship show right now, and it's going to be going on for a while.
Well, I'd say a lot of that is hype, but it does to a degree answer my question. The question I was going to pose to you guys is like, it does seem like things are converging, and they're going to be converging on Gideon. Do you think that this is his final season? Obviously, given those comments, he's thinking about season 5.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a part of it.
Right.
Like,
what's the conclusion here? Because he has the Darksaber with Bo-Katan and Boba Fett all.
I don't think you can in 2 episodes resolve the Darksaber Mandalorian heritage situation. No. Like, that's a huge topic. You're gonna brush that off as a side story in a Mandalorian episode. Strange choice.
How do you conclude the season outside?
You have to have a different. You have to have a spin-off show. There has to be something else. We already know there's a sequel to Rebels. If it's in animation, we might see it in animation.
Interesting.
But, there's things that are in motion here. That I don't know if this is Moff Gideon's last season. I would be shocked if it was. But there will be a bit of a reset. I'm wondering. And it's possible that we end with like an Empire Strikes Back type ending, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was like, maybe we won't see like a resolution of Darksaber or Grogu getting saved. Like, maybe this season's gonna end in not the best note for the good guys, right?
And that's okay. That's happened. We've seen that happen before. Sure. And then we get to see. Then it kind of follows a similar kind of trajectory as kind of the original series, trilogy. Maybe not so close that we're get up like in episode 7 again, but you know what I'm saying? Like, so there's just so many. There's a lot of possibilities, and I'm excited that they could go anywhere, because it really seems like they're taking all the toys out of the toy box, right? Toys that we haven't seen for a long time, right?
That's true.
And they're kind of saying, okay, how can we fit this all together? And I don't know. I just want to see those Dark Troopers get cut in half by lightsabers. That's all I really care about at this point.
Same.
Okay. I think we can wrap it up there. The one thing we can also mention, this is just an offshoot Star Wars television news story. They have bumped up the filming production for Obi-Wan, and it's going to be filmed in Boston. Not set in Boston. There was a typo.
Did you see the tweets about that?
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah,
that's very funny. It's not set in Boston, which would be fun. It would have its own.
But the set is in Boston.
The set is in Boston.
All those the tweets were that they're like, "Hey Skywalker," and it was
Hey Skywalker. What a wicked cool lightsaber you got there.
Yeah. I was dying. I was like, "Oh, the internet, so good."
Oh, you're really old. You must be wicked smart.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's not what it's going to be. It's going to be set on Tatooine. We do know that, but they are booming. They have bumped up production, which is, I think, a good sign. I think that there was some turbulence around that show. People were concerned about the script. They went back to the drawing board. They're kind of retouching it, and they feel like now it's in a good place. They had it set for a later date, and they moved it up. I think that's only means good things. So that's exciting, and we should see more Ewan McGregor in his Obi-Wan beard probably soon.
Awesome.
He did technically visit the set of Mando to try on his robes. So there's a possibility that they filmed something while he was there for that. That would be kind of like a cool, fun Easter egg thing that they show, like throw in at the end of the season or something. Who knows? Not saying it's guaranteed, but could be fun. So that is all. You can follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast, Facebook.com/Tower Babblecast, and head over to our website, towerbible.ca to find everything that we do. And we will be back next week with Chapter 15, Season 2, Episode 7, the penultimate episode for this season. So we will talk to you then. All right.